To continue reading. This reading out loud is to learn and improve English reading skill and to educate the Buddha's teaching via the Buddha Dasa Bhikkhu's book titled Handbook for Mankind. I may be read with unclear or not correct pronunciation or stress on each word. By the way, I try my best to read out loud based on my self-learning background and my own accent. Let's get started. Page number 81. Clearly, no organized effort was involved with arahantship was attained by the first 5 disciplines of the Buddha on hearing the discourse on non-selfhood, or by the 1,000 hermits on hearing the fire sermon. In these cases, keen, penetrating insight came about quite naturally. These examples clearly show that natural concentration is liable to develop of its own accord while one is attempting to understand clearly some question, and that the resulting insight, as long as it is firmly established, must be quite intense and stable. It happens naturally, automatically, in just the same way as the mind becomes concentrated the moment we set about doing arithmetic. Likewise, in firing a gun, when we take aim, the mind automatically becomes concentrated and steady. This is how naturally occurring concentration comes about. We normally overlook it completely because it does not appear the least bit magical, miraculous, or inspiring, but through the power of just this naturally occurring concentration, most of us could actually attain liberation. We could attain the fruit of the path, nirvana, arahantship, just by means of natural concentration. So don't overlook this naturally occurring concentration. It is something most of us either already have or can readily develop. We have to do everything we can to cultivate and develop it. to make it function perfectly and yield the appropriate results, just as did most of the people who succeeded in becoming arahants, none of whom knew anything of modern concentration techniques. Now let us have a look at the nature of the state of inner awareness, reading up to full insight into the world that is, into the five aggregates. The first stage is joy, piti, mental happiness, or spiritual well-being. Doing good in some way, even giving alms in considered the most basic form of merit making, can be a sort of joy higher up at the level of morality, completely blameless conduct by way of word and action brings an increase in joy. Then in the case of concentration, we discover that there is a definite kind of delight associated with the lower stages of concentration. This rapture has in itself the power to induce tranquility. Normally, the mind is quite unrestrained, continually falling slave to all sorts of thoughts and feelings associated with enticing things outside. It is normally restless, not calm, but as spiritual joy becomes established, calm and steadiness are bound to increase in proportion. When steadiness has been perfected, the result is full concentration. The mind becomes tranquil, steady, flexible, manageable, light, and at ease, ready to be used for any desired purpose, in particular for the elimination of the defilements. It is not a case of minds being rendered silent, hard and rock-like. Nothing like that happens at all. The body feels normal, but the mind is especially calm and suitable for use in thinking and introspection. It is perfectly clear, perfectly cool, perfectly still, and restrained. In other words, it is fit for work, ready to know. This is the degree of concentration to be aimed for, not the very deep concentration where one sits rigidly like a stone image, quite devoid of awareness. Sitting in deep concentration like that, one is in no position to investigate anything. A deeply concentrated mind cannot practice introspection at all. It is in a state of unawareness and is of no use for insight. Deep concentration is a major obstacle to insight practice. Deep concentration is a major obstacle to insight practice. To practice introspection, one must first return to the shallower levels, shallower levels of concentration. Then one can make use of the power the mind has acquired. The mind has acquired highly developed concentration is just a tool in this developing of insight by the nature method. We don't have to attain deep concentration and sit with the body rigid. Rather, we aim at a calm, steady mind, one so fit for work that when it is applied to insight practice, it gains right understanding with regard to entire world. Insight so developed is natural insight, the same sort as was gained by some individuals while sitting listening to the Buddha expounding Dhamma. It is conducive to thought and introspection of the right kind, the kind that brings understanding, and it involves neither ceremonial procedures nor miracles. This doesn't mean, however, that insight will arise instantaneously. One can't be an arahant straight off. The first step is knowledge may come about at any time, depending once again on the intensity of the concentration. It may happen that what arises is not true insight, because one has been practicing longly or has been surrounded by too many false views. But however, it turns out the insight that does arise is bound to be something quite special. For instance, extraordinarily clear and profound if the knowledge gained is right knowledge, corresponding with reality, corresponding with Dhamma, then it will progress, developing ultimately into right and true knowledge of all phenomena. If insight develops in any in only small measure. It may convert a person into an arahant and aryan, arya, into an aryan at the lowest stage, or if it is not sufficient to do that, it will just make him a high-minded individual, an ordinary person of good qualities. If the environment is suitable and good qualities have been properly and adequately established, it is possible to become an arahant. It all depends on the circumstances. But however far things go, as long as the mind has natural concentration, this factor called insight is bound to arise and to correspond more or less closely with reality. Because we, being Buddhists, have heard about, thought about, and studied the world, the five aggregates and phenomena in the hope of coming to understand their true nature, it follows that the knowledge we acquire while in a calm and concentrated state will not be in any way misleading. It is bound to be always beneficial. The expression insight into the true nature of things refers to seeing transience, transience, unsatisfactoriness and non-selfhood, seeing that nothing is worth getting, nothing is worth being, seeing that no object whatsoever should be glad and clung to as being a self or as belonging to a self, as being good or bad, attractive or repulsive, liking or disliking anything, even if it is only an idea or a memory, is clinging to say that nothing is worth getting or being is the same as to say that nothing is worth clinging to. Getting refers to setting one's heart on property, position, wealth, or any pleasing object. Being refers to the awareness of one's status as husband, wife, rich man, poor man, winner, loser, or a human being. or even the awareness of being oneself. If we really look deeply at it, even being oneself is no fun. It's wearisome. Because it is a sort of suffering. If one can completely give up clinging to the idea of being oneself, then being oneself will no longer be suffering. This is what it is to see the worthlessness of being anything, and is the gist of the statement that being anything, no matter what, is bound to be suffering in a way appropriate to that particular state of being. Any state of being fit it is to continue as such, as to be made to last, to endure. At the very least, it must endure in one's mind in the form of belief in that particular state of being. When there exists oneself, there are bound to exist things which are other than that self and belong to it. Thus, one has one's children, one's wife, one's this, that, and the other. Then one has one's duty as husband or wife, master or servant, and so on. All this points to the truth of the statement that there is no state of being such that to maintain it will not involve struggle, 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 the trouble and struggle necessary to maintain one state of being are simply the result of blind infatuation with things, of clinging to things. If we were to give up trying to get or to be anything, how could we continue to exist? This is bound to be a major sort of skepticism for anyone who has not given much thought to the matter. The words getting and being, as used here, refer to getting and being based on mental refinements, on craving, on the idea of worth getting, worth being, so that the mind does get and be in real earnest. This is bound to lead to depression, anxiety, distress, and upset, or at least a heavy burden on the mind. Right from beginning to end, knowing this truth, we shall be constantly on the alert, keeping watch over the mind to see that it doesn't fall slave to getting and being through the influence of grasping and clinging, aware that in reality things are just not worth getting or being. We shall be smart enough to stay aloof from them. If, however, we are not yet in a position to withdraw completely from having and being, we must be mindful and wide awake so that when we do get or become something, we do so without emotional upset. We must not be like those people who, turning a blind eye and a deaf heart and a deaf ear,ไม่ใช่ค่ะ a deaf ear, go ahead breathlessly and inexpertly getting or becoming, with the result that they fall right into the pit of their own stupidity and attachment and end up having to commit suicide. The world and all things have the property of impermanence, of worthlessness, and of not belonging to anyone, any individual who at clings to anything will be hurt by it. In the very beginning, when he first desires to get it or to be it. Later, while he is in the process of getting it and being it, and then again after he has got it or been it, all the time before, during, and after, when anyone grasps and clings with deaf ear and blind eye, he will receive his full measure of suffering, just as can be seen happening to all deluded worldlings. It is the same even with goodness, which everyone values highly. If anyone becomes involved with goodness in the wrong way and clings to it too much, he will derive just as much suffering from goodness as he would from evil. In becoming involved with goodness, we have to bear in mind that it possesses this property. A skeptic may ask, if nothing at all is worth getting or being, does it follow that nobody ought to do any work or build up wealth, position, and property? Anyone who comprehends this subject can see that a person equipped with right knowledge and understanding is actually in a far better position to carry out any task than one who is subject to strong desires, foolish, and lacking in understanding. Very briefly, in becoming involved in things, we must do so mindfully. Our actions must not be motivated by craving. The result will follow accordingly. The Buddha and all the other arahants were completely free of desire, yet succeeded in doing many things far more useful than what any of us are capable of. If we look at account of how the Buddha spent his day, we find that he slept for only 4 hours and spent all the rest of the time working. We spent more than 4 hours a day just amusing ourselves. If the defilement responsible for the desire to be and get things had been completely eliminated, what was the force that motivated the Buddha and all arahants to do all this? They were motivated by discrimination coupled with goodwill, metta, even actions based on natural bodily wants such as receiving and eating. ALM, arm, in, arm. ALM.ทานอ่านว่า arms กูทานนะทานแปลว่าทาน arms แปลว่าทานเมตตา goodwill เมตตา even action based on natural law eating alms food ทานนะ were motivated by alms discrimination. They were free of defilements, free of all desire to keep on living in order to be this or to get that. But they did have the ability to discriminate between what was worthwhile and what was not as the motivating force that sent their bodies out to find food. If they found food, well and good. If not, never mind. When they were suffering with fever, they knew how to treat it and did so as well as possible on the basis of this knowledge. If the fever was quite overpowering and they were not strong, they recall that to die is natural. Whether they live or die was of no significance to them. They were of equal value in their eyes. If one is to be completely free of suffering, this is the very best attitude to have. There need not be any self as master of the body. Discrimination alone enables the body to carry on by its natural power. The example of the Buddha shows that the power of pure discrimination